Spring is officially here, signaling the shift to longer days and hopefully more sunshine. While we welcome the seasonal change, it's worth noting that here in Niagara, we're still experiencing those gray skies and rainy weather. And this raises an important health question. How does limited sun exposure affect our vitamin D levels? Known as the sunshine vitamin, vitamin D plays a crucial role in bone health, immune function, and even mood regulation. Today we explore the science behind vitamin D and its impact on the body with our expert guest, Tanya Keurs, nurse practitioner and clinical director and co-founder of NiaHealth. Thanks for joining me today, Tanya.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we are excited to have you because we want to know, how much vitamin D do we really need, and how do we know if we're getting enough?
That's a great question. Vitamin D needs can vary based on age, life stage, genetics, and like you mentioned, sun exposure. At NiaHealth, we consider levels below 76 as suboptimal because our focus is on keeping our members well, not waiting until things become a problem. Health Canada uses a cutoff of 30, trying to keep people above 30, but they're really looking at preventing disease. So how do we know if we're actually getting enough? That's where biomarker testing becomes so valuable. NiaHealth has detected vitamin D deficiency in 48% of our members. I'm often surprised how many of these people are already taking a supplement, or at least they have it in their cupboard. A simple blood test can let us know what your levels are, and then from there we can make small adjustments. So it might be taking the vitamin D out of your cupboard. It may be changing the dose, or even the timing, taking it with food. All of these things can make a meaningful difference to make sure we get that vitamin D up to an optimal range.
So I understand that nearly 50% of total NiaHealth clients show a risk of vitamin D deficiency. So that kind of sounds high compared to the recent StatsCan 2023 report, which pegs the number more at like 5 to 13% of total Canadians. So why is that?
Great question. There's really three factors at play here. One is different thresholds. So we touched on that a little bit already. The second is fresher data. So Health Canada's estimate is based on data collection between 2012 and 2019. NiaHealth's data is from the last 12 months. And finally is the timing of that data. Majority of NiaHealth's testing was done within winter months or the fall and spring, where we're not getting as much sunlight in Canada.
So why does vitamin D deficiency really matter?
So vitamin D plays a role like a hormone, and it's involved in multiple critical functions. One, it supports your immune system, helping your body to fend off infections. Two, really important for calcium absorption, which promotes bone health, reducing the risk of osteoporosis. And three, emerging research is exploring links between vitamin D and certain types of cancers, autoimmune diseases, and even blood pressure. Here's the tricky part, though, is that people often don't feel unwell when their vitamin D levels just start to fall. When symptoms do show up, and those symptoms could be fatigue, muscle pain, some people describe it as bone pain, this deficiency will often go undetected because we're not looking for it. As I've been thinking about talking with you, Kate, this week, I've actually come across two people who had severe vitamin D deficiency and were symptomatic, but it took so long to find out why they felt unwell because we just aren't looking for it typically.
Well, so what are some tips then on how to get enough vitamin D in our lives?
First thing is food, and maybe not the most efficient way of getting vitamin D, but eating so foods that naturally contain vitamin D. Example, fatty fish, mushrooms, egg yolks, all of those have vitamin D naturally in them. The second is type of food that we would be thinking about eating are things that have vitamin D added to them. So milk, yogurt, orange juice, cereals, but most people really can't sustain their vitamin D levels just on food. So then there's supplements. This is particularly important for Canadians in the fall and winter because we don't get enough sunlight. And then finally is sunlight. So our skin can make vitamin D from sun exposure, but it's a balancing act. We, of course, want to make sure we're wearing our sunscreens so we don't increase that risk of skin cancer, but that sunscreen blocks vitamin D production. So it's not always reliable that we're getting enough through the sun.
Okay, so why should Canadians be thinking more about prevention and not just treatment when it comes to their health? It's a hot topic right now.
It is. And I think, first of all, it's just defining what prevention is. It's not just about avoiding illness, but it's actually about living well. We don't want to just keep ourselves out of the clinic or out of the hospital. We want to be able to ski, hike, garden, play with our kids, play with our grandkids. And really, that's only possible when we can catch these issues before they become a problem. It's hard to prevent something that you don't know exists, and that's where NiaHealth comes in. We do comprehensive biomarker testing to help our members identify what is currently going on in their bodies and how this could signal future risk. Once these risks have been identified, then we can empower them with the information, the knowledge, and really concrete actionable next steps so that they can change that risk.
So we know that millions of Canadians do not have a family doctor or nurse practitioner, leaving gaps in our healthcare needs. In Ontario alone here, there are 2.5 million residents without access to a primary care provider. And as of early 2024, approximately 73,000 residents here in Niagara region do not have access to a family doctor. A number that I've read could potentially double within the next 2 years if systemic changes are not implemented. So again, why is proactive health testing so important now?
Those numbers are just staggering. With the difficulty accessing primary care, it's even more important that individuals understand their own health, are taking steps to prevent illness, and really own their healthcare journey. There's an analogy that I love, that instead of waiting downstream to rescue people or pulling them out of the river, let's go upstream and stop them from falling in the first place. And that's exactly what proactive testing and prevention is. This is going to need to be the future of healthcare, where individuals own their own health. And that's why we present our members biomarkers or test results in an easy, digestible way where they can actually understand, interact with their tests, and figure out what to do about that. And then we support them in making those changes with coaching.
Okay, so before we wrap up this interview, there's a lot of chat around health span over lifespan these days. So can you just kind of differentiate between the two?
Yes, simply put, lifespan is how long we live. Health span is how well we live during those years. Too many people spend their final decades in poor or declining health. And to maybe make this a little bit more personal, when I think of health span, I really think of my great grandma. So she lived to be almost 103, but more importantly, she really enjoyed those years. In her 90s, she learned to drive a llama cart, and she stayed mentally sharp, socially engaged, hung out with the grandkids, the great grandkids, the great great grandkids, and that's the kind of life we all want.
And so, just out of curiosity here, so where is NiaHealth available?
Yes, so NiaHealth is currently available in Ontario, Alberta, BC, and Manitoba. And you can find out more by going to niahealth.co. So that's niahealth.co.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today, Tanya. And I'm sure we'll have you back for some more health-related questions.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.